So it's wrong that the only question that's going through my mind while watching this movie is Scarlett Johansson pooping herself? I do not have the answers, and this movie didn't give me any. I came back from Lucy not more than maybe an hour ago. According from the old clock, yeah, about an hour ago. Lucy, it's Scarlett Johansson is a woman who was given a drug that lets her unlock more than 10% of her brain. And stuff. Stunning visual effects. Woo. Yeah. The story's a bit more complex than that. I have some issues with this movie, kind of like how I had issues with Transcendence. So you can kind of guess what sort of review this is gonna be. This movie didn't piss me off like Transcendence did, because I didn't think anyone was bad in it, mostly. So, yeah, what's the idea? The idea is Scarlett Johansson plays a woman called Lucy, and she's tricked by her week-long boyfriend who gets axed up immediately. He's on screen like 5 minutes, and played by Chloe Azabak. I don't know. He's dead in like 5 minutes of being on screen. So she goes in, and the Chinese mob, not Yakuza, they're like, oh, not even mob, they're like businessmen. They have this new synthetic drug, which is CBX4, I think they call it, which is essentially a protein that's produced by mothers in the womb that basically stimulates the development and growth in a newborn, in a fetus, and a child, and so forth. It stimulates the nerves to grow and tells them what to do. So they developed the synthetic version as a drug. And we see this one guy take it, and he's like this weird, like, looks like a meth head. And he's like completely and utterly like brain dead. So I'm looking at it as like, okay, is he gonna jolt up and start speaking like coherently and intelligently? No, he snorts it through his crazy straw, starts laughing his ass off, and gets shot in the fucking head. And then they make Lucy a carrier along with 3 other people. And you see it in the trailer. She gets sent to like people, and they kick her in the stomach, and it leaves, and she starts unlocking her brain. Where to fucking begin? I'll start with the things I'm actually going to do likes and dislikes a little bit on this one. I'll start with the things I actually liked. The visual concepts were actually really nice. Yeah, the effects overall, when she was using her newfound abilities, were really cool. Granted, it's a really far-fetched. There's a scene near the end of this movie where Lucy is getting like this overdose that she willingly took the overdose, and she shows she's got so much control. She's like morphing her hands in like a webbed hand and like claws and whatever. So she's getting this overdose, and she's like seeing the world and stuff like that. And she's making this like supercomputer to basically house all this knowledge she's learning. She's learning like beyond things and stuff like that. Um, but immediately her hands start morphing. Her skin starts blackening, and I'm like, is her flesh rotting away? No. Okay, she's morphing into tree limbs. No, she's turning into a blob-like computer mass thing. Okay, it's visually very cool, but I'll chalk that up and put in my negatives a little bit. Most of the actors were fine. Morgan Freeman, thank God Morgan Freeman had more to do with this than he did Transcendence. He actually played a semi-important role. He played the scientist and all, but he played it so much fucking better than in Transcendence. I felt he actually did add to the movie, whereas in Transcendence, I thought he didn't need to be in the movie whatsoever, which he didn't. You could have replaced him with anyone in that movie. No, in this one, he was. I preferred him in this than the other one. There weren't many other actors in this. Oh, there were plenty actors, but there's the only real main actor was Scarlett Johansson. Him, the head Chinese businessman played by Min-Sik Cho, I believe his name is, plays Mr. Chang. He's the guy who's basically the drug runner. And then a French cop, Amir Wait. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Sorry, Amir. Playing Pierre de Rio. And he's kind of the caught in the crossfire who becomes kind of her sidekick. And he has a great line at one point where he sees her literally take down a room of a hallway full of guys doing by doing nothing. She's literally controlling their bodies because they explain that like at certain levels she's controlling her metabolism, she's controlling matter, she controls other people, so forth and so on. So she's controlling these people, and he's just like, why? I don't think I can really be any help to you. What help am I? That's not true. You're a reminder. And she gives him like a kind of kiss to remind her, kind of like she is human. She's scratching my ear a little bit there. There. I had a thing in my ear. It's like, ooh, it's like a little pain. It's like I must have like an earache or something like that. No, he's fine. The concept, I guess, is okay. But the problem is the concept is partly one of my negatives too. I'll go back and maybe some positives I can think later on it. Um, the biggest fucking problem I have. Okay, I'll get to the biggest problem in just a second. Scarlett Johansson ranges from being okay to being just completely boring to watch, despite all the shit she's doing. Because she's basically playing it like she's kind of saying she's losing her Mandy the more she unlocks her brain, so she's becoming robotic, and you see that in it, and it's a robotic performance, and it's not that interesting to watch. She's doing some interesting things, like at one point she like murders those. You see it in the trailer where she murders those guys in the room, the people who are holding her hostage, the Chinese gang, and then she just sits down and starts eating everything. Like it's like she takes a bullet out of her. No fucking problem. Whatever. Then she later goes to the hospital, and I will admit, I like this scene a little bit. I found it weird. She goes in and she goes to the operating room, and they're operating, and she looks at the screen of the man they're operating on. She takes her gun, and she shoots the man on the table, and they're just like, "You killed him." It's like, no, he's gonna die anyway. The tumor has already reached there, and whatever. And they start operating on her. And she calls her mom, and she starts going into this really. I'll give this credit. This was a really like deep existential like moment of like realization for this character, because she starts talking about she can feel everything. Literally, she's like feeling everything. She remembers everything from her life, but all the while they're like really just taking this packet of material out of her. And this guy who she originally was holding a gun to, and who was scared shitless, probably shit himself. Um, it starts just rallying chaos, like, and it's like she didn't even point the gun at him. It's like this, oh man, this is like wow. If you didn't have this, you're lucky to be alive. He's just casually having this conversation after she pointed a fucking gun in his face, like it didn't even happen. What? She has other moments though where she's actually really like good in her performance. Well, like she shows that she's like can view time because they explain, and I'll go into this a little in a second because it's tied in with a negative that's kind of a positive too, and it's the big one. It's the big one for me in this. Um, but she's having this moment where she's actually viewing periods of time. Like she's like she's literally sitting in a chair. This is happening when she's like building a supercomputer, like downing all the chemical, all the drug at once. So she's literally seeing the world in different viewpoints, and then she stops like in the middle, I think, of New York, and she just goes, and you see in the trailer, she stops time, goes, but then she's basically reversing time. She's seeing the not progression but deprogression of time, going back in time, seeing all the events happening. These people, we see like the 1880s, and we see Native Americans. She goes all the way back to like fucking, and this was weird. She went back into the little prehistory where there was dinosaurs. We see a dinosaur, which was one of the weirdest looking pieces of CG crap I've seen. Because it has this, its arms are weird and its face is like, was not proportionate at all. It was like really crappy. But then she goes like to the beginning of Earth and beginning of time. She basically sees the beginning of time itself somehow, which, oof. So yeah, I mean that's really good. But her reactions throughout this entire moment is really, really good. She's giving some great expressional performance here. Uh, a great expressional performance, I should say, not some great expressional performances. Forgive me if my vocabulary sometimes does not match up what I'm trying to get across. My mind does not keep up with my mouth, unfortunately, so my mouth will sometimes say words that my mind does not mean. Now, with everything I've just said, the concept is not bad. Unfortunately, it's a couple years too late to make a convincing movie for me. And even if it wasn't, this is a little far fetched. By all means, it's science fiction, but it's a far fetched science fiction based on science fact. Because the whole idea is that we use only 10% of our brain's capacity, cerebral capacity, they specify. And they explain like dolphins can use 20% of their brain capacity, which I don't know that for a fact. That could be true because they use echolocation and stuff like that. And then the whole concept of the movie is that if you were to unlock more parts of your brain, what would happen? And what happens to Lucy is what happens when you unlock more parts of your brain. Problem is that idea has been completely thrown out the window. If I'm correct in my knowledge of this, and you can correct me, please correct me if I am wrong in this, which even then it's probably not going to change my view of the movie. It'll make me laugh less at it though. Is that idea is actually kind of thrown out the window because it's been proven, I believe, that we actually do use more than 10% of our brain power. What it is though, we're using like I think on average we use like maybe actually 90% of our brain power, but we only use 10% in the things that we are normally doing. All the other is done for very minute things, like knowing how to subconsciously knowing when to breathe, knowing when to sleep, knowing when to eat, knowing when to go to the bathroom. Hence my pooping line. Because let's say for sake's sake that yes, this is what happens if you unlock more percentages of your brain. But does that mean that probably means you're forgetting to do things like knowing how to poop? So I'm just picturing, and Mark was thinking about this too when he heard about this concept, that Scarlett Johansson is just pooping herself throughout this entire movie. She is so hell bent on her mission, or so robotic, she forgets when she's needing to poop. So she's pooping herself the whole time. And I just picture Morgan Freeman sitting across from her when they finally meet, like, "Wait, Lucy, have you been pooping yourself?" "You know what? I do not know." "I have, but I can control my metabolism. I think." "Then why are you pooping yourself?" Uh, the one question I will never answer. it's it, even if that wasn't the case, this concept. Okay, there was a movie a little while back with Bradley Cooper, and you may have heard this, called Limitless, where he takes a drug that lets him use 100% of his brain's capacity. That is portrayed, and I didn't necessarily see the movie entirely. I saw parts of it. I know, and I get the concept. The difference between Hiss and Lucy is that is portrayed in such a more realistic fashion. He's not manipulating matter. He's not controlling people. He's thinking at high speeds. He can do so much at once. He's learning things immediately. But if he stops taking the drug, excuse me, he like loses the ability. That makes sense. That makes complete sense in my mind for a movie where you're unlocking more percent of your brain. In this, first off, they never actually say how much of her brain she was unlocking. Well, they do actually. In periodic points, they do. Like they'll show 20% of the screen, 40% of the screen, 60% of the screen, 99% of the screen. So we know what part of her brain she's kind of at. But in the beginning, we don't. So it's really hard to know what her capabilities are at that point. And she goes on to say that her brain cells are aging so rapidly, or doing it so rapidly, that she's going to basically die within like 24 hours, and she needs more of the drugs to live. And so she kind of becomes a junkie in that regard, but not in the addiction sense, in the sense she needs to survive. And they show what happens if she doesn't have the drugs in her. She literally starts to dissolve. Her face starts to just go, and like that was weird because that didn't look right. And I don't mean that in the sense that it looked wrong. How was the best way to put this? It didn't look right in the sense that didn't look how your face would melt, because her eyeball was like here, but still looked like it was in the socket. Unless her bones were turning into like rubber or something like that, or melting. And then she just suddenly just eats like drug and stuff like that, and then wakes up in the hospital. um, I fucking I'm sorry, this concept, this actually bothers me a lot, actually, because it is an outdated concept, it really is. And she's so fucking emotionless half the time that she completely doesn't understand the situation at hand, despite having so much knowledge. That then she goes like, "Can you prove what you're talking about?" And she just goes to this guy and starts explaining how she knows about his daughter's death, the exact time, the exact moment, everything that was happening at that time, and they all look at her like, "You could have done something less horrific to prove your point." And you know, my tongue motion signifies my unbelievable amazement at how stupid this film was. I'll get to that in a second. The editing in this was weird because I get there's symbolism in these scenes, but they keep cutting away to animals and stuff like that. Like they keep cutting to like when her week-long boyfriend basically tricks her into giving this guy his case so he doesn't get killed, which he gets killed anyway, so that was pointless. Um, we see a mouse going after cheese on a mousetrap. Symbolism, I guess. And then when his bodyguards are coming down to get her, we see cheetahs going after an antelope, and when they catch her, we see the cheetah's got the antelope. It's symbolism, I get it. And like when we see, and they show like when Morgan Freeman's giving a speech, he is explaining how when we want to survive, we ourselves strive for immortality to survive, or when they're in a hostile environment, they strive for immortality, the urge to survive. But when they're in the prime environment with good food, good weather, basically a suitable environment, they reproduce instead. And they cut to animals just fucking on screen, and then a couple fucking in a car to symbolize this, and then cut to birth. So we see a lot of animals giving birth, a lot of animals just fucking, and then we see that. It's weird. It's a weird choice. I get it though. I do, but wow. But the thing about this that just made me laugh my ass off the most was at the end, where she gets to 100%. And this I'll give credit for. The idea, the way she explains this, is actually really interesting, because it is actually a thought-provoking notion that there is no mathematical equations of the universe. The universe is governed solely by time. It's how we know it's because if you were to speed up like a car frame by frame, or speed up anything frame by frame in like a video, you would eventually not see it. So how do we know it was there to begin with? Time is essentially the factor that proves we exist. And she gets to 100% of her brain, and she disappears. Like, poof, right out of her chair she's in. She was, like, turning black and stuff like that. She was essentially turning into the obelisk from 2001 Space Odyssey, which she then gives a flash drive to Morgan Freeman, which looks like space. And I'm not joking. It's like space, the stars are moving on there and stuff like that. But she disappears. I'm like, okay, so you moved so fast, somehow you disappeared. And then it's like, where is she? And all of a sudden, the cop's phone goes off. It's like, I'm everywhere. So what you're telling me is Scarlett Johansson essentially turned into God. Sure, why not? This is so fucking stupid. So yeah, what are my overall thoughts? It was enjoyable to watch. I wasn't bored too much, but I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. This was even more stupid than Transcendence, and Transcendence was stupid. I like Transcendence more than I like this stuff, which is weird. I gave Transcendence a 6, and most everyone pissed me off in that movie except Johnny Depp. No one pissed me off in this movie, but the concept of Transcendence is better than the concept of this. So I think that's part of the reason. And I think Johnny Depp, was a better actor than Scarlett Johansson in this regard. But yeah, I only got one new trailer. I got the trailer for. Oh man, I remember. Wait a minute. Yeah, I got the trailer for 50 Shades of Motherfucking Grey. If you didn't tell me, because I didn't know what it was until I realized, like, Mr. Gray, I'm like, Mr. Gray, and then I see this dowdy, not dowdy, but she's this woman who's kind of a reporter, kind of, and she's sitting down. I never read the book, obviously, if you can't tell. So she's sitting there, and she's down, and he's got this look like, yeah, it's like, my eyes are on you, and I'm like, wait a minute, Gray, this attraction, oh no. And then it's like I see it's like there's worlds of gray. It's like taking the fact that I know what this movie is out of the equation, taking the fact that I know it's 50 Shades of Grey the adaptation. What did I think of this trailer? It looks like a standard kind of sexual thriller kind of movie. It doesn't actually look anything special, even when you take the source material out of the equation. And when you add the source material in, it still doesn't look any. Not granted, if you've read the book, maybe it does look close to the book. Who knows? I didn't read the book. So, yeah. So that's the only new trailer I actually got, surprisingly. So yeah, that's all. That's my thoughts. I gave this a 5 out of 10. The effects were decent. Morgan Freeman was, thank God, better in this movie than he was in Transcendence. Um, Overall performances were fine. The scientific notions were interesting. But this movie is so outdated of a concept. It's so stupid the way it's portrayed because of that. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you got something you want us to review, TV, movie, media related, put it in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. I still got to get a. You'll notice I haven't gotten a review for either Planes or Wolf of Wall Street up yet. I haven't gotten around to actually watching. Some things came up. I will do my best to actually watch at least Wolf of Wall Street this weekend. So, yeah, I have it on demand, so I can watch it at any point. I really should. I'll probably actually try to do that tomorrow. I'll be all honesty. I'll probably get that around to that. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you for the next one, which here it should be Guardians of the Galaxy. Besides Wolf of Wall Street, it'll be Guardians of the Galaxy. Hell yeah! That is the final movie that I've been looking forward to so much. That is probably my #1 movie, short of maybe Godzilla. And even then, I think I've been looking forward to this a little more than Godzilla, just because of the waiting factor. So, yeah. I actually took a test, too, before I go. On Facebook, which Guardians of the Galaxy character are you? Can you guess what I was? I'll give you 5 seconds to guess. 4, 5. Did you give up? I was Gamora. I'm a sexy green assassin bitch. Whatever, man. If it wasn't for the fact I'm not a guns guy, I would have gone for a gun and probably would have gotten either Star-Lord or Rocket. I wouldn't settle for Groot, though. Groot's pretty cool. Oh, they're all really cool, though. Or fuck, give me Thanos. I would have loved Thanos. I don't think they would have given me that, though, because he's not a Guardian. He's a villain. Regardless, though, I don't know why I'm continuing talking at this point. So yeah, I will see you for the next one. Thanks.